How much brightness does it take to please the ones you love? De Ver Ferreira thought he knew the answer. A blue powder, luminescent, unlike anything he had ever seen in his life. He called his wife, called his nephews, called his 6-year-old daughter. Everyone touched it. Everyone was fascinated. And De Ver discovered, weeks later, that that glow had a name, cesium-137, and that sharing something beautiful can be the most devastating thing a father can do. If you've ever noticed that history's greatest tragedies have no villain, only ordinary people on the wrong side of a boundary they never knew existed, you already belong here. Subscribe to Afterthrone. Goiânia, Brazil, September 1987. De Ver brings a sample home on an ordinary September night. Hot, noisy, with nothing to announce what is being carried. The scrapyard is just minutes away. He knows every pothole in the road, every curve. He calls Maria Gabriela. She looks at the powder in her husband's hand and also stops. She also finds it beautiful. The two stand there a moment, looking at that blue light in the palm of a calloused scrapyard hand. There is something in that scene that will only gain weight much later, when the memory of it is revisited from every possible angle. In the days that follow, the novelty spreads the way novelties spread in small communities, by word of mouth, by curiosity, by the generosity of someone who finds something and wants to show it off. Eder, De Ver's nephew, takes a piece home. Gabriela Ferreira, another nephew, holds the material long enough to receive a dose that will change the rest of his life. Neighbors arrive. Friends arrive. De Ver welcomes them all. It is beautiful. It seems special. And the most natural thing in the world is wanting the people you love to see it too. Among those who arrive is Leide das Neves Ferreira, 6 years old, De Ver's adopted daughter. She touches the powder with her hands, rubs it, spreads it on her face. The blue glow on the skin of a child in a dark room. It is the kind of image that eyes hold on to. Then she eats, with the same hands. She is a child. It is an ordinary afternoon. There is nothing wrong that she can perceive. De Ver is at the same table. The first symptoms appear within days. Nausea, vomiting, wounds that appear without explanation and won't close. A malaise that Goiânia's doctors cannot name. They diagnose allergies, food poisoning, a strange virus. Cesium is in no one's vocabulary. De Ver is sick. Maria Gabriela is sick. Wagner is sick. Neighbors are sick. Leida is sick. And then something happens that defines this story. De Ver denies it. The wounds, the nausea, the malaise that won't pass. To him, none of it has anything to do with the powder. It can't. It was beautiful. It seemed special. The connection simply didn't fit within what he knew about the world. He is irradiating, and he doesn't know it. There is no way to know. Cesium is odorless, invisible, silent. It doesn't hurt when it enters. It doesn't warn. It works slowly, from the inside, without asking permission. Think about what these days are like for De Ver. He wakes up sick and follows along as the family tends to the other sick. His nephew goes to the emergency room. The doctor says it's a virus. His wife goes to the doctor. The doctor says it's an allergy. He thinks the same. Something they ate, something in the air, an unfortunate coincidence. He himself has wounds on his hands that won't close, nausea that won't pass, a fatigue that isn't from work. And he keeps going. He doesn't suspect. The connection to the powder simply doesn't exist for him. Every bus he boards, every hospital corridor he walks, every hand he holds, every face he touches to check for fever, the cesium goes with him. There is a detail in the medical records from those days that is hard to face. De Ver described the powder to the doctors, mentioned the material from the scrapyard. No one connected the dots. Not out of incompetence, out of an absence of reference. A cesium-137 accident in an urban area simply wasn't within the horizon of what was imaginable in Goiânia in 1987. The doctors treated the symptoms. The cesium kept working. Leide's wounds worsen in a way no doctor can explain. The skin won't regenerate. The body won't respond. It is Maria Gabriela who sees what De Ver cannot see. She doesn't ask permission. She takes what is left of the material, puts it in a bag, and acts. If this video is holding your attention, help the channel keep bringing these stories. Subscribe and share with anyone who's into this kind of thing. Maria Gabriela Ferreira is not a doctor, not a scientist. She is a woman watching her family fall ill and getting no answers. On September 28th, 15 days after the capsule was opened, she puts the material in a burlap bag and crosses Goiânia by bus. She carries in her lap what she doesn't yet know is an open radiation source, emitting cesium with every centimeter traveled through the city. It is not calculated heroism. It is the desperation of someone who wants an answer the doctors haven't been able to give. She arrives at the health surveillance office and sets the bag on the table. Physicist Paulo Roberto de Almeida arrives with a Geiger counter. The device pegs the needle. He thinks it's broken. He steps back. The signal drops. He approaches the bag. The meter screams. It wasn't a virus. It was cesium-137, and it had been spreading for weeks. Brazil wakes up in that moment to the largest radioactive accident in urban history. Not at a power plant, not at a military facility, but at a scrapyard in Goiânia's Norte Ferroviario district, spread by the hands of people who were trying to share something beautiful. De Ver discovers, in the days that follow, what was in Leide's hands, what she had touched, what she had put in her mouth. Here we need to stop and go back a little, because before understanding what De Ver carried for the rest of his life, we need to understand who he was and how that powder came to be in his hands. De Ver Ferreira is in his early 40s, runs a scrapyard in the Norte Ferroviario district, and has a sharp eye that took years to develop. He can tell, just by looking, what has value in scrap metal. Copper, aluminum, lead. He reads metal the way others read text. He is not a careless man. He is a professional who knows what he does. A few kilometers away, the old Goiânia Radiotherapy Institute had been empty for 2 years. A legal dispute between partners had left the building abandoned. Equipment, records, everything. No one had gone to retrieve anything. No one had sealed anything off. One sentence is enough for this. The state had already failed before any of them ever appeared. Wagner Mota and a companion enter the abandoned building. They do what any experienced scrap collector does. They search, assess, estimate weight and value. The radiotherapy machine stands out. Large, metallic, heavy, clearly valuable in parts. They bring it to De Ver. He buys it. It's business. Days of work with tools, sledgehammer, crowbar, effort. The lead cylinder at the center of the machine resists. It is dense, compact, well-built, designed not to give, until it gives. And then the powder appears. Cesium-137 in chloride form is soluble and highly volatile. In sufficient concentration, it produces blue luminescence visible in the dark, a real, documented physical phenomenon with nothing metaphorical about it. The glow is not invention. It is physics. De Ver had no way of knowing what he was looking at. There was no radioactive hazard warning on the abandoned equipment. There was no protocol that a scrapyard owner in Goiânia could reasonably have known. There was, at no point in this story, a wrong decision that a man with De Ver's information could have made differently. To De Vere, this was not a silent bomb. It was just heavy metal, lead, high-value scrap. The danger warning was buried under layers of bureaucracy and public negligence long before he ever touched the first piece. He simply found something he considered beautiful, and did what fathers do, called his daughter to see it. The state arrives in full force. Teams from the National Nuclear Energy Commission, tents set up at the Olympic Stadium, mass evacuations, monitoring of hundreds of people. Goiânia grinds to a halt. The world looks at a Brazilian city that most of the world barely knew existed. 249 people contaminated, 4 dead. One of them is Lady das Neves Ferreira. She dies on October 28, 1987, 20 days after the diagnosis. She was 6 years old. She was buried in a lead coffin in a ritual monitored by technicians with dosimeters, because even the farewell required protocol. The cemetery that agreed to receive her body only did so after pressure. Others had refused. A 6-year-old girl in a lead coffin turned away by cemeteries. De Vere survives, and what comes next is a form of punishment that no court needed to impose. The prejudice against Goiânia's contaminated was real and systematically documented. Families expelled from neighborhoods where they had lived for years. Children barred from schools. Products from Goiás refused in other states. Trucks turned back. Contracts canceled. The fear seemed irrational, but it wasn't entirely. Any surface contaminated by the powder became a new vector. The radiation didn't travel in boxes of oranges, but it could have, if the powder had reached them. The invisibility of radiation created a shapeless fear, and shapeless fear always finds a face to fix itself on. De Vere had a face, but there was something that face carried that no external condemnation could reach. He knew about the afternoon. He knew about the dark room. The blue glow on Lady's hand. How beautiful he had found it. He knew it had been him who brought it into the house, who called everyone, who distributed it with the generosity of someone who believed he was offering something special. He just didn't know what it was. There was no way to know. But that doesn't dissolve the weight, because the weight is not about guilt. It is about being the link between something you didn't understand and someone you loved. He lived with that for 7 years, with his name tied to the largest radioactive disaster in Brazil, with the image of Lady, with the memory of that afternoon that when it happened was completely ordinary, and that only later, with what he came to know, became the center of everything. He lived in a body the cesium had marked from within, in a city that had learned to look at him differently, with the particular silence of someone who survived something they shouldn't have survived. There was no catharsis available to De Vere. There was no moment of resolution, of understanding, of peace found. There were only the days, one after the other, carrying the weight that each one carries when you know what you know and cannot undo what was done. De Vere Ferreira dies in 1994, liver cirrhosis aggravated by radiation exposure. He was in his early 50s. He was not judged, not convicted, not absolved. He was simply consumed, by the cesium first, by the memory after. The radioactive waste from the Goiânia accident was buried in a repository a few kilometers from the city center, monitored, controlled, but present. Cesium-137 has a half-life of 30 years. They will remain present for decades. Goiânia moved on. It is a metropolis of 2 million people that did not stop because of 1987. The people who survived moved on. The city healed the way cities heal, over the surface, slowly, without erasing. But the question De Vere carried did not heal. And it is not a question about safety protocols, or about who should have sealed off that building in 1985, or about systemic failure. It is a simpler question, and a more impossible one. How does a man survive having given as a gift to his 6-year-old daughter the very thing that killed her, without ever having had any way of knowing what he was giving? The blue glow of cesium-137 is real. It is physical. It is genuinely beautiful. De Vere was not wrong to find it beautiful. He was simply on the wrong side of a boundary he never knew existed. The greatest tragedy of Goiânia was not the cesium-137. It was the fact that, to save Lady, De Vere would have needed to know something the world never bothered to teach him. If De Vere's story made you think about the price we pay for what we cannot control, you need to know another one. Women who lived at the center of power, who wore titles, carried crowns, occupied the most coveted thrones in the world, and discovered, too late, that the power they believed they had was never theirs to begin with. The inheritance that killed Princess Diana and began 500 years before. You'll find the link on screen now and in the first pinned comment. Thank you for staying until the end. If these stories resonate with you, share this with someone who'll appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel and leave your comment below. See you in the next one.